You know, we still haven't worked out an introduction.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Just hello. I mean, that could work.
What up, young world?
Welcome to Urban Geek. Today is a good show. We're going to talk about something that's been on everybody's mind. Everybody's been anticipating it. I know I was. I know you was. The Joker movie, or Joker. And that's what today's show is. I'm Pharaoh Fly.
And I am Nizza.
That's what's up. So you just seen this movie today. So you fresh out.
Fresh out.
Okay. I seen it. I saw it Friday. So I've had a little bit of time to think about it, to let it sink in.
Okay.
But I'm gonna let you go first. What's your thoughts? Like initial overall thoughts.
I wrote a list. I got pros and cons.
Well,
start.
I don't want to get too deep yet. Just
okay.
Like just overall.
Overall, man, I don't know. I just kind of initially, I wasn't sold on it. Joker, no Batman, and then the trailer looked interesting. But when I saw it, it was no more than I thought it would be.
Okay. Now I think I want you to go deeper. Well, let me give my thoughts real quick. Just overall, I thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
I thought it was a good movie, and I have other thoughts that we'll get into later, but I thought it was worth making. I enjoyed it. I have issues. It wasn't the greatest movie ever.
Did it live up to your expectations?
Ooh, that's a good question. Overall, I'm gonna say yeah. Actually, overall, I'm
that's a surprise to me.
I'm gonna say yeah. Overall, it lived up. I thought it was good. It lived up to my expectations because basically my expectations was that the acting was going to be incredible, and it was. My only issues, there was some small issues with the story. Well, actually, one not so small, but we'll get into that. Well, shit, you go ahead and take it away. Tell me might as well dive deep now.
Okay, so pros. Gonna start with pros. Cinematography was great. I thought it was good angles, good camera placement. The shots were well done. The lighting was good. The score was great.
Mm-hmm.
Joaquin Phoenix's performance was outstanding. Mm-hmm. The DC references that were planted in the film, those were good. I enjoyed them. I caught a couple of them. One, I think probably my favorite one was when Bruce. Oh, spoiler alert! If didn't nobody else know.
Hold on, this whole goddamn thing is a spoiler. I guess I should have said that from the beginning.
Well,
this is the title will
them.
say that this is a spoiler review. Don't even watch this unless you've seen it or you just like spoilers for some weird reason. Well, go ahead.
Right. Well, when Bruce slid down the pole out of the little playhouse, I was like, that's the reference to the Adam West film. So I caught that one among other ones. So the DC references were good. The Joker development was good. I enjoyed that. It was a great period piece.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop you there.
Mm-hmm.
Joker development.
Yep.
Explain what you mean by that and why you thought it was good.
So one of my favorite films is Michael Douglas is falling down, and to see what is it, a deconstruction of a character, or uh, the descent into, in this case, what would be madness. That was enjoyable to watch.
Okay, that's where I gotta stop you, because that was the only problem that I had with this movie. You know what I'm saying? That was the major problem that I had with this movie. That his descent, obviously, this movie seems to have been taken from. They took a large portion of it from The Killing Joke. And the premise of that is that Joker became the Joker because he had one bad day. And I'm sure you were going to get to it. He mentioned that in the movie. You know what I'm saying? I had a bad day. That was one of the,
Right.
and that's one of the references. Right. But my problem with this movie is that just taking the movie itself as a whole, his bad day wasn't bad enough compared to the rest of his life. And I can go deeper in on that, and I definitely plan on it, but I don't think that the events that occurred were that much different than, like he said himself, I'm always have bad thoughts. Everything's always bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that the only thing that happened was he lost his clown job.
Actually, he was no longer on his medication. And when you speak about mental health, that is a catalyst for his character. Once he was off his meds, all bets were off.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That is okay. That's a good point. I didn't even consider that. Because see, here's how I was looking at it. I mean, it seemed like they was trying to say that the bad day was, him losing his father figure. But the day before, a few days before, he didn't know he didn't think he had a father then. You know what I'm saying? And so him thinking that and we got to get into that thing, because I swear for like 20 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, the Joker is Batman's brother. And for about 20 minutes. But anyway, so he gets a father figure, finally gets a person who a face he can put on the who's my daddy question, and then it gets taken away. So it's like, but you never had a dad. So how is this a part of your bad day that gets so bad that you want to matricide, that you want to kill your mom? Like, it just didn't seem. He lost his crappy job, which I could see that taking somebody, making them be irritated. But the jump from, the only thing that I saw was he lost his job. No matter how much he loved that job, he lost his job. And I can see that making you irritated, but I cannot see that making you get to the point where you just want to kill your mom. And then the other thing is his mom, he found out that his mom wasn't telling the truth about about stuff. I guess I should be more specific. What wasn't she telling the truth about? First, she wasn't telling the truth about him being adopted, and and he discovered that, and that led him to be like that, and losing his jobs made him say, "Fuck it, I want to kill my mom. I want to kill my mother." It don't make sense to me.
Yeah,
but when you put the meds thing in there, it makes a little more sense.
His descent, once he confronted Thomas Wayne, it didn't seem earned. It was, I'm like, dude, you just found out that he could potentially be your dad, and you didn't question it. You ran right at him, and then you found out, oh, nope, I'm not your dad. And then it was like, okay, calm down. Let's settle down. But again, two sane grown men talking, and I mean, someone who is mentally ill, you never know how that could affect them. My last pro was wardrobe. I thought the wardrobe was good
Oh, the whole
for everybody.
wardrobe, backdrop. I mean, when I watch a movie like this, you know what I think to myself? Where do they get all these beautiful old cars from? Like, why is there so many cars
Mm-hmm.
that are still in good condition? How do you have? How are you able to get them? I thought everything was it filmed on film because it looked like it to me. It look. I haven't
Uh,
researched that, but it looked like it was filmed on film. You know, that has a different look to it than
yeah,
digital. Um,
yeah,
I thought it was gorgeous.
and I did too. And with the wardrobe, and because it was a period piece, all of that, that was probably that, and the score was probably one of the most. Those were probably some of the better qualities of this film, because when he went on stage with Robert De Niro's character, it felt like I was watching the Johnny Carson show,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
I thought the set was outstanding, but the entire film was beautifully shot.
Yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. The lighting, everything, this whole cinematography, everything was absolutely beautiful. I definitely agree with you on that.
Now,
Want to go into his acting because his performance was that laugh, that fucking laugh, man. That laugh, and let me point out, there was absolutely a difference between his uncontrollable laugh and when he was just laughing. You
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And that uncontrollable crazy laugh, oh man, that shit was it was piercing.
yeah. Um, you want to get into the? Should I go talk about my cons?
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. Break it down, break it down.
Mr. Negative over here.
I mean, the
Uh,
critic's supposed to criticize.
yeah, and I'm not a professional movie critic, but I
Something like a
am
rapper.
I am
I'm
a
not a rapper though, but I'm not a rapper.
right, but I am a fan of film. The directing. I don't know that I like the directing.
Oh, you gotta explain now.
Um, okay, well, directing, pacing, it sometimes the entire movie felt slow and sluggish,
Really?
and then sometimes it felt racy. And it really only felt racy when you tried to differentiate between what he was imagining and what was really happening. And one of my biggest problems with this film was it didn't give you an answer to what was real and what wasn't. And I'm pretty sure that was on purpose. It could be left up to your imagination. You walk out and you
Now,
think like, okay, I pinpointed what was real and what wasn't, but
now
did you?
that's a big thing because you know, and I cannot by any stretch of the means say that you know I came up with this. Everybody's saying it, but it kind of makes sense that he probably never left Arkham. That the whole thing happened in his head. And I'm gonna let you continue your points, but I do want to point out that I want to point this out. It's really interesting that you know Joker doesn't really have a backstory, you know,
Right.
and I think I like the fact that they created an origin story for the Joker, and this motherfucker still don't have a backstory.
Yeah, because I think it was from the Killing Joke where he, and I'm paraphrasing, where he said, "If I had a
Multiple
story,
choice.
I'd prefer to it be
If I
multiple
had an
choice."
origin
And I
story,
think
yeah.
this film was definitive for that. But
Even his adoption thing, unknown origins, and and him telling this whole story out, you know, you don't know how much of it is real, how much of it was imagined, if he's in Arkham or not. Like, if the whole thing was in Arkham and it's just something he imagined, how much of it, you know what I'm saying? So they made an origin story for a person and you still don't know what his origin story is. I mean, you got a clue, but it's unreliable.
Hey, this is unrelated. Can you not say origin?
Origin, motherfucker.
Because you kept saying origin.
I say I want to.
I was
origin,
like, what the fuck?
Origin, potato.
I thought that was one of your words. You know, I got some words that I can't.
Now I'm only saying origin. I mean, now
okay.
Wait, how'd I say it?
You said origin.
Now that's how I'm saying it from now on.
Origin. Okay, go crazy. But something I noticed by the end of the film, there was absolutely zero heroism in this film.
Well, wait. Wait, you do what you signed up for, right?
I'm saying.
I mean, did you really expect
from
heroism?
From nobody.
But you knew what kind of story this was. This was a story about Joker.
Nobody. And I was wondering, was that intentional?
I don't think that. I disagree with you on that being a problem.
Well, because I'm thinking with every single person he interacted with in this film, in this city, the only person who showed any signs of heroism was in his imagination.
Now, who was that?
Was old girl.
Oh, we gotta talk about her ass. We gotta talk about her ass.
Well,
what heroism did she show?
Well, when she was by his side and you mean there
him
and
imagining it.
That's what I said. The only heroism was in his imagination.
Well, isn't that okay? So if the story is about a bad day, then is there supposed to be heroism there?
There was absolutely no. I mean, I guess okay. When I see there's this film about the Joker, I know the Joker is inherently evil. I know he's going to be the bad guy. And when you make a film about a bad guy,
he's not inherently evil. That's not what this is actually saying.
He's a sociopath. I mean, okay, I understand. Well, the point of this film was to humanize him, but I mean, it just, when you have a story about good and evil, there's got to be some good.
But it's not. It wasn't a story about good and evil. It was just a story about somebody's fall into madness.
I know, but it just made the undertone of the entire film just so bleak and depressing.
You really didn't think, but that's what they were. I don't see your point here, because I feel like that's what they were going for.
He didn't. Okay, the only person that he said was good to him was she? See, hold on, but see, here's my problem with the multiple choice backstory. Was she really? You never really know, because her file paints her out to be one way, and you never see her act that way in the film.
Okay.
So it kind of leaves you where you don't really know.
In all fairness, people change. Especially people. You talking about the difference between a young mother and what she was now. You know what I'm saying? People absolutely change over the years. So she could have been terrible when she was young.
It was from everywhere he went, from his job, from the comedy club, even the police officers, the hospital, the hospital where his mom was at, the Arkham Asylum, any and everywhere he went, I don't think we ran into one good person. Midget? The midget was considered good by him because he never did anything bad.
He was good on. Well, they didn't show. He did say that you've always been nice to me. They didn't show the niceness, but he did say that you were the only one that's been nice to me there. So
I mean, not to bash small people, but is that saying that there's only a little goodness in the world?
I see what you did there. I need sound effects on this show, because I felt like Exactly.
But I mean, I wasn't trying to take a shot at him, but I'm just saying, like, damn, I mean, even if there was like a good waitress,
I thought we was
a
gonna get
nice
through this
can
show
waitress.
without any small people jokes.
I mean, well, hey, so after that, one of my cons was, like I said, the Joker's story leading up to his whole descent. I enjoy Joaquin Phoenix's performance in that. Once he transitioned to the Joker, I didn't like it.
You mean after
I didn't
he
like
killed? At what point do you consider? What point, in your opinion, did he transition to the Joker?
When he went inside of the refrigerator, which was a proverbial cocoon.
Okay.
And he came outside of the refrigerator. Everything and after
remind
that.
Me, did he kill? Who did he kill before the refrigerator?
He killed the guy that gave him the gun.
And he killed his mom after that?
I think he killed. Oh shit! Wait, did he kill the guy with the gun before the refrigerator?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Check it out again.
Yeah, because he did that the night before. He went in the refrigerator the night before, and the day he went to the set and was on show, he killed the guy who gave him the gun. He killed his mother, and
so that was all before the refrigerator happened, and then he killed the guy who gave him the gun, and then his mom, and then and you didn't like that.
I didn't have a problem with that. I felt like, okay, so this is a different take on the Joker. I get that. This is a standalone film. I get that. I absolutely don't see any hope in the sequel. I mean, I'm sure that they could work something out if they really wanted to, but I have a whole slew of problems with that alone. But it just, once he was the Joker, this was a further departure for me than Jared Leto's Joker, because not once in this film was he funny. I didn't laugh at all in the entire film, and he's the Joker.
Okay, actually,
Joker,
I got to disagree with you again.
Well, okay, when he dropped the gun in front of the kids,
it was a couple parts that were funny, and actually, okay, I got to interject here because
take it away.
That what I'm about to say is, not only was there comedy in this movie, but I think that is the most brilliant part of this movie. The way that they were able, I think that is quintessential Joker, because they found a way to combine murder, very heavy, serious fucking moments, really intense, and comedy. And the biggest one that I can point to is right after he kills the guy who gave him his gun, and then the midget can't unlock the door. I think that was funny. That was more than just funny. That was brilliant, and that is why that was a point of brilliant writing, because you got this intense situation, you got all this blood over the floor, everybody's shocked, and they take you from shock to laughter in like 30 seconds.
That I felt bad for laughing at the guy.
You laughing, but you still tense as fuck.
Yeah.
And I thought that was and not only was it brilliant, but it fit the character. It was so Joker.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I didn't like the metaphoric ending. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was missing something. And I think I don't think it was the ending itself. I think it was the entire film. Because the entire film could be left up to interpretation, because I want to say they did a brilliant job putting this film together. But if I'm saying that they did a brilliant job putting this film together, I don't know that I believe that it was so clear cut what was real and what wasn't. And if it wasn't so clear cut what was real and what wasn't, it feels reminiscent of Smallville. Like they give you all of this shit and they take it back. Like they made a movie. They made a movie that doesn't really mean anything because it doesn't really tell you his origin story.
That's also the brilliance, because the Joker doesn't have an origin story.
That's also a waste of time. That means you learned absolutely nothing going to see this film.
That's not true. You've learned exactly what the Joker is capable of. You learn what he.
I didn't need to go see this film.
I've never seen the Joker kill his mom. I've seen the Joker do a lot of fucked up shit. In The Killing Joke, that amazing DC cartoon movie, I seen the Joker do stuff that was nuts. I seen him do nuts stuff. He shot Gordon's daughter in the stomach and opened up her clothes and took pictures of her naked. Did he rape her? I don't. Was that as? Yeah. Did they say that, or did they just imply that?
They implied it, but it was. It's been said that was the intent. Yeah, he raped her. They just wasn't gonna show that.
Okay. So,
but see, that was the worst thing that the Joker has ever done, as far as I'm concerned.
His mom is the worst thing. So.
No, not to me, because I've never known the Joker to give a fuck about anybody but the Joker, and he don't really give a fuck about himself. So I would never expect a person like that to care about his mom.
Interesting.
That he wouldn't kill her. And I mean, you would think maybe he wouldn't. Maybe there's somebody, but the whole point to the Joker is there's no hope. There's no saving him. So I wouldn't rest all of my thoughts on he wouldn't kill his mom. I would absolutely believe he would kill his mom. If she didn't drop dead, I figured he would be the one to kill her.
Interesting way to look at it. Well, okay, let me address the thing about didn't learn nothing. Even in fantasy, you can learn a lot about a person based on what they fantasize about. So let's say the whole thing was fake. Let's say none of it was real, right? It was all in his imagination. Well, your imagination still tells a lot about who you are, what your desires are. Even if he's imagining the whole thing, the fact that he's imagining about looking for a father still shows that that's a problem with him. You know? Even if it wasn't real, it still shows that not knowing his own past somewhere deep inside his psyche is a problem with him. You know what I mean? And then feeling like his mom didn't do right by him. Even if the events leading up to her death was fake, or even if he didn't actually kill her and he just imagined her being killed, or he just imagined himself killing her, that still, if nothing else, shows that he's got some kind of anger with the way she raised him or what she did or did not do with him, even if it was all made up. So even in a made up story, you can still pull out a person's desires, issues, all that stuff.
Yeah, this is one of those films that really left me with more questions than answers at the end. And that's one of the things I had a problem with. Do you think that Thomas Wayne was his father?
I do not.
Because they told you, they took it back, and then they kind of suggested with the picture.
I do not think that. What am I trying to say?
They looked alike.
I do not. First of all, he was adopted. The adoption papers were real, or well, they did. You know
Thomas
what?
Wayne
it's funny that you
rich,
said that.
And
it's funny that you said that because when he said, "Look at us," and then they did the up close face, all I saw was their noses.
I saw their noses, their chin.
I'm like, man. But look, okay. Oh, see. We got so much to discuss. Number one, let me answer your question. No, I don't think so, because although I think that they were given a lot of what's the word, room to change or come up with their own origin story. I don't think anyone is bold enough to make the Joker Batman's brother. Like, I don't think they would have went that far. So I don't think that was the intent of the writer who wrote this movie. But oh man, I was just about to keep talking because I was just thinking about something that we really got to get into. But go ahead, go ahead.
I felt like it was, because it was so loosely put together, I felt like the storytelling was a little lazy because they didn't give us a definitive story for the Joker. And I mean, that's ultimately what I went there.
Lazy.
and I don't like not knowing. I'm not gonna automatically check the box that says genius.
Again, I mean, how is that not genius? Because you never,
just because a nigga wear kufi don't mean that he bright.
Is you never knew Joker's origin story before, and you still don't.
And that's what I went there to find out.
Okay, so I think here's one clue as to
I could have stayed home, homie.
Here's one thing I noticed. I have never. This is one reason why I think a lot of it was in his mind. One really strong reason. It's because I have never, in the whole history of lore of Batman, ever seen Thomas Wayne be such a fucking dick. He has always been represented, although he was rich, he was one of the good ones. And if you telling this story from the point of view of somebody who has animosity toward Batman and these people, so then if he made up the story, then yeah, he's gonna tell the story as if Thomas Wayne is a dick. You know what I'm saying? Is not a good guy. But in every representation of this guy, he has always been a freaking angel, actually.
Okay, well, so to speak to that, that harks back to no heroism in the film for me, because
I can see that.
Of all of the people who I might have expected to see some kind of heroism from, it would have been Thomas Wayne. And he referred to the citizens in Gotham City, the lower class citizens, the working class, as clowns. And I'm like, now, but I didn't like that.
But here's the thing: if the story is being made up by someone who's angry at the world, then that might be an answer to why you saw no heroism. You know, things are about, I talk about this all the time, perspective. Everyone, there's intentions of one person. You could have good intentions, but someone could read your actions in a totally different perspective. 10 people could see the same thing and view it 10 different ways. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
so even if take Thomas Wayne, the dad, you know, everybody in the city saw him. He's always been represented as good, but then that's always been from the point of view of Batman and the butler telling the story. So this story is from Joker's point of view. Thomas Wayne was a dick. And when you say clown, I feel like that was an important thing, because if he's telling the story, if he's making it up, I think it's kind of interesting, an interesting choice of words. You're all clowns.
Now, if as far as the iterations of the Joker that we've had prior to this, and he feels like everybody is as bad as him, or everybody is bad, if you're looking at it like that way and you're following it and it's his perspective, it makes sense that there was no heroism in the film. That would make sense to me. That could change my perspective.
It was probably a lot of people trying to help him out, but from his perspective, it was no heroism.
Yeah. but not getting that definitive answer felt like lazy writing to me. Um, the tie-ins with this film, even though it's a period piece and it was set in the early '80s, the tie-ins with this film with modern day society, which a lot of
Really,
films
with
tend to go
1980s New
for.
York.
Yeah, but even still, the point of a lot of people doing period pieces are either to uh shine a light on a particular incident or to draw the parallels between then and now. And I felt like they were trying to draw parallels between then and now. And in doing so, because they made it a mental health issue, I felt like they were really saying, hey, this is reflective of where we are today.
They don't have to say that, because here's the thing. Certain problems have been and continue to be a problem, and have been a problem for a long time. We still have not solved the mental health issue. It wasn't just how many years ago that we were still cutting chunks of people's brains out because we didn't understand their behavior. You know what I'm saying?
But this is why I felt like Thomas Wayne probably was his dad, because when you talk about the problems we had then being the ones we have now, problems we had then, rich folks use their rich status to manipulate shit.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
And
you don't think
I felt like Thomas Wayne...
You don't think that he was adopted?
Nope. I felt like Thomas Wayne used his money. Look, Bruce Wayne used all of that money to the Batcave, the Batmobile, the Batwing, all of the Bat gadgets, all of the suits, all of the everything. Thomas Wayne can get a file created and get Homegirl committed.
I think your ass just love the idea that the Joker is Batman's brother. I think really you would just love to see that play out.
I really don't. I really don't, because when they revealed that, I cringed. I was like, "Oh, I don't like that. I really don't like that. I didn't like that at all."
I don't think. I think that was just. I don't know. I think that and I don't think we discuss why it's possible that a lot of this story might made up. We should say that part. The fact that in the beginning of the movie there was a flashback, or the person that he was seeing, the therapist that he was seeing on a weekly basis or whatever, she alluded to the fact that he had previously spent time in Arkham Prison. She didn't allude to shit. She mentioned it, flat out mentioned it, that he had been in Arkham Prison before. And then he winds up in Arkham Prison. So it's totally possible that he never got out of Arkham Prison. You know what I'm saying? That he'd been in there through the whole series of events. So it's totally possible that none of that shit happened.
I didn't like that either, because that was a suggestion about Batman or Bruce Wayne. And I really just kind of want that story for Batman.
What story exactly?
Because they use it on the joke that all of this is in your head. I really thought that is deep and dope as fuck for Bruce Wayne. But psychology.
Okay. I mean, Joker has always had hallucinations. Even in the story, what's the story? The cartoon I keep bringing up, The Killing Joke. As soon as I watched Joker, I came straight. Me and Ebony, we came straight home, and we watched The Killing Joke. And he mentioned, I don't like reality. It gets in the way of my hallucinations, and I much prefer them. He says flat out that he has hallucinations all the time. So this is a part of the Joker's canon.
I just took that as a joke, as part of him being funny, because you've never seen him show hallucinations unless he was under some kind of drug or something, or he was just losing
even
his
Heath Ledger's Joker
man.
Came up with these entire backstories of his you know what I'm saying, hallucinations, imagination, same difference.
But there was never any suggestion that he hallucinated.
Get deep, daydream, whatever you want to call it.
I just always felt like the Joker just like to man fuck everybody. Like I never felt like he was hallucinating anything. I just felt like
I
he
think
was
he
just
was
psychotic.
pretty adamant, like that in the Killing Joke, that not only does he have hallucinations, he has let go of reality, but he also wants everyone else to let go of reality. So I think I think that's a thing for Joker. I think it's a thing, and it's always been a thing. He wants people to go mad because he's mad, and part of going mad is one big what am I trying to say? One big thing of being mad is not having a grip on reality, like just seeing other things, hallucinating, fantasizing, whatever you want to call it. That's one of the benefits of being mad.
Well, I don't want to get hung up on that too much. Two more things that I had. I did not. I knew. I mean, from the trailers, we knew the little boy was probably Bruce Wayne,
Obviously,
and he was gonna be in the film.
you didn't like his acting.
I I I didn't. No, I ain't had. I honestly, nobody's acting in the film other than Robert De Niro was memorable.
True.
Other than Joaquin Phoenix, he was.
It was his show.
If you lose Joaquin Phoenix, it was a horrible film. I mean, nobody was bad, but nobody
stood out.
Great. Nobody stood out.
I can say that.
And I guess fuck, where was I going? I didn't like the inclusion of Bruce Wayne. I thought that the tie-in at the end and how his parents died, I thought it was genius, but still to have so much of Bruce Wayne in this film, I thought it was just going to be a story about a guy who becomes the Joker. And I thought it was going to be a complete departure from any kind of Batman tie-ins.
Okay.
And it was not a departure from a Batman tie-in. It set up Batman.
Okay. I want to speak to that one.
And I ain't like that.
I think that, okay, it may not have set up Batman. Here's the thing. This was one of the things that I thought was also genius. Now, let's go under the assumption that he made this whole thing up. It's one of his multiple choice origin stories, right? If we under that,
you committing to that origin.
I'm gonna say it how I want to say it. If we go under that assumption, then that we can also further assume that Batman, he already knows who Batman is, right?
I don't like that either.
Though. Let me finish. If he knows Batman, he knows who Batman is, and he makes up this story, it makes sense. Because Batman has got beef. So if he's going to make up origin stories, and here's one of the things. Psychotic people are also narcissists. So if his sworn enemy is Batman, and then I guess I'm also assuming that he knows the identity of Batman's true identity, which I don't think he ever did. But I'm making a lot of assumptions here. But if he knows the true identity of Batman and he's a narcissist, then and that's the thing that he's okay, let me finish this point. If he's a narcissist, then he's gonna say it makes sense that he's gonna come up with a story that makes him the origin of Batman. It makes sense for a psychopathic, narcissist, crazy person to say that his biggest focus in life, who is Batman, that he created him. It makes total sense. And it's actually kind of genius if you look at it in that context. And not only that, but I think that was kind of the point, because when he said at the very end, what are you laughing about? And somebody asked him at the very end, what are you laughing about? And he said, you wouldn't get it. I think that's the joke. The joke is that he created Batman.
Yeah, I took it as, so in every iteration of
And
the
that
Joker
Batman
prior
is
to
just as crazy as he is.
in every iteration of the Joker prior to this one, he didn't know who Batman is. So I'm not going to assume that he knows who Batman is. But
Well, you got to
I
answer
looked
the
at it
question.
like,
What was the joke that he wouldn't
hold
get?
on. I'm getting there. Hold on. I look at it like he realizes all of the ingredients which made him who he is. And now that Bruce Wayne is without his parents, I'm sure he's thinking to himself, Thomas Wayne, now your son is in, I mean, he's got all that money, but he's pretty much in the same situation I'm in. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to turn out well. And I felt like that's what he was laughing at. Like, not that he knew you was going to be Batman, but he knew he was going to have some kind of, he was going to deal with some shit.
If that was the case, now, are we still working under the assumption that all this was not real?
I never was working under the assumption that all of this was not real.
Then
I
that
just didn't like the way that they drew.
His reason for focusing on Bruce Wayne is because he thought that Thomas Wayne was his dad or something. And that's why at the end of it, he would, because my question is, there's a lot of rich people in Gotham. Why would he focus in on that as he's finishing the story in his head? Why would he focus on this?
I don't think that Bruce Wayne was ever his focus in the film at all.
Yeah, but you just said
I feel
that
like Thomas,
he feels like he fucked Bruce Wayne up, and that's what the joke was about. Why would that be?
But it wasn't
the point of the joke?
It wasn't Bruce, I got you. It was I got you back, Thomas Wayne. I felt like it was more directed towards Thomas Wayne. He was like, I fucked up the thing that you care about.
I get it.
And so I don't really feel like,
so do you think
feel like he gave two shits about Bruce.
That he was adopted and that Thomas Wayne wasn't really his dad?
After he saw the file, probably, because I think if he believed Thomas Wayne set his mom up, he probably wouldn't have killed his mom. But so I believe he believes that he was adopted.
So then why the animosity toward Thomas Wayne then if Thomas Wayne ain't do nothing?
Because it's rich people like him which are still the reason why he's where he is. People are cutting funding. Who's cutting the funding? Okay. It's the people who have a lot of money. It's not, I mean, you know.
Let me ask you a quick
people
question.
With all this money, look at their house.
I see your point. I still like my interpretation of the joke, but I guess that's another leaving it open. Some people don't get it. Some people don't. Some people
lazy writing.
Lazy or genius. I don't know. But let me ask you this. I can't remember, and I got to go back and watch it again. But how would he have known? Maybe he read about it in the future. Okay, I answered my own question. I was gonna say, how would he have even known that Bruce Wayne's dad that got killed, that Thomas Wayne got killed during those riots? But he might have heard about it if they're talking about it in the future. You know, a little time has passed and he's in Arkham now. He might have heard, oh yeah, during your riots, Thomas Wayne got killed, and then okay, I can see it. Okay.
I mean, it's probably the or one of the richest people in the city.
He would have heard about it.
He was running for mayor. He would have heard about it, and it would have taken him back to that. But like, as far as the lazy writing is concerned, how he got his suit, and he was poor. How he got the Joker suit. They never talked about that. How he just walk up on the Wayne building.
Okay. Let's discuss that. Let's discuss that.
How he got in the building to get
writing. I think
how he got in the building to get to fucking.
Let me address that. Let me address
Wayne.
that one. And yeah, let me address that one, because at first I was thinking the same thing, but I think that all the points that you're bringing up are evidence that none of this shit is real. Let me explain what I mean. Zazie Beetz. And first of all, as an aside, I just want to say,
That's a dope ass
yeah,
name.
it is a dope ass. I agree with you on that. So as another aside, one of my criticisms of the writing was that Zazie Beetz' character could have been left totally out of this movie, and it wouldn't have changed anything. Now, I don't think that her role was necessary. It's just it seemed like every big movie needs a love interest of some kind, and they just put her, because they could have left her totally out of. But having said that, now that you say the things that you say and what I'm finna say, it's just further evidence that he made the shit up. Now they showed you. So when I'm watching this movie, I see, boom, she tells a joke. He gives this really creepy, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I done met a lot of women before. And I don't think that you taking that blow your brains out shit to the next level will ever lead to you getting in a pussy. You know what I'm saying? And I was just dumbfounded by the progression of their relationship. I'm thinking the whole time, this shit don't make no sense. How are they together? What is she seeing him? Why did this relationship happen this quickly? And then they explained it, and I'm like, oh, when they went back and showed and did I see dead people with the girl, and showed that she wasn't at any of these things, and showed that he hallucinated most of his interactions with her, and really the only two interactions he probably ever had with her was that one time in the elevator, and then when he came into her house. And so when they did that, I'm thinking to myself, oh, that now it makes sense. But if you think about that, right, like it just don't make no sense. He does this one weird interaction with her, and now they're a couple. You know what I'm saying? This shit progressed so fucking fast. It made absolutely no sense. And they just got on quick as hell. It made...
So you thought that shit was brilliant?
What I'm trying to say is that if that didn't make no sense, if the relationship didn't make no sense, and it just skips to these things that make absolutely no sense, and the reason why it doesn't make any sense is because he made it all up. And that's how memory works, mind you. When you're coming up with a story, this fantastical story, you don't write in going to the store and buying the suit. You don't write in ironing it. You don't write in ironing your shirt. You just pop on the scene in a fresh purple suit. Just like in the same way, he didn't write in wooing this girl in, getting to know her. You know what I'm saying? He didn't write all that. He went from 0 to 100 with this girl because it was all made up. And that, you gotta admit, will be kind of a good explanation as to why he just popped up with a suit, even though he was broke.
I mean, okay, it's kind of textbook. Like it with a child. I mean, you want to reward your child, or you want your child to have things, so you give your child things. And ultimately, as a parent, you know, when I'm giving you things, I'm giving you things that I can take away as some type of punishment. And for a character who is tormented, for a story about someone who's tormented, you expect, like, oh, hey, these things are being given to him because they're going to be taken away. I saw that whole thing being a delusion before the movie started. I'm like, there's no way she is rolling with dude from the trailer. From the trailer. I ain't even had to watch the film. Like, there's none of that was a surprise to me.
You gotta see my point.
I see your point, but
it is
I don't see how that's
ridiculous for him to pop up with the finest girl in his building with this, after this weird, awkward, you know what I'm saying? It is just as ridiculous for him to pop up with her as it is for him to pop up with this fresh purple suit. It's just as ridiculous. And then but they're both it might not be. If the writer's intent was that this whole thing was in his imagination, you gotta admit that it makes sense. Now, you don't want to go with the idea that this whole thing was made up. But just for argument's sake, just as a, you know what I'm saying, you got to admit that if he made it all up in his head, then okay, it makes sense that he pops up with a purple suit. And it makes sense that when he's walking down the stairs, then the cops chase him. Like, where did they come from? A lot of this shit don't make sense.
Ultimately, what we're going back and forth about is, okay, I get where you're coming from completely, but your argument is this could be genius or it could be lazy, and that's my argument. You're erring on the side of genius, but your argument is based on an if. I'm not gonna go with genius off of an if, and that's my problem with the film.
All I'm saying,
it could be
true,
genius,
but what I'm saying is
all we have is an if.
That the things that you're pointing out that are problems are only problems if you go with your theory. If you go with my theory, like let's go back to the purple suit. The purple suit don't make no sense if that stuff happened. The purpose is
it's not my theory.
If everything he's saying actually happened, then it doesn't make any sense for him to just be able to pop up with a purple suit. But if this story is all in his imagination, you gotta admit that's a good reason and explanation for him popping up with a purple suit. Now, you don't have to go with my version of the events.
That's not my
theory. You don't have to accept that theory. But you can't deny that if my theory is correct, that would be a plausible explanation for why he came up with a purple suit. Right?
Yes.
I'm not asking you to roll with me on my theory.
I'm
just saying.
I'm not arguing
that my theory could fill the holes that you have a problem with.
Yes, your theory could fill the holes. I don't have a theory. I only have a problem with the fact that all we have been left with this entire film is an if. Yeah. That's my problem. You didn't give me a definitive theory one or theory two. You just said again, if.
I mean, I go back to the point. I go back to my original point. That's the Joker. You don't know.
But that's like
the Joker.
Hold on, that's like Star Wars.
No, it's not. That's why it's genius.
No, because your argument about Star Wars is
you don't know the Joker's origin story. He does not have an origin story. So it could be said that is the reason why this movie is genius, because you came
went
away
to the
from
damn
it.
film to watch the origin story, and he still ain't got one.
Because the Joker don't have no origin story.
Lazy
is he the lazy
writing? That's lazy writing.
I'm gonna roll with genius. We'll see what the Oscars say.
I'm not rolling with anything. I'm rolling with the product that I'm gonna roll with what you gave me to work with. What you gave me was
we just talked about interpretation. A million people can see the same movie and interpret it a different way. You rolling with your interpretation of what they gave you. With your interpretation.
It's not an interpretation.
You're rolling with your interpretation of what you saw.
I'm not interpreting. Dude. If this whole story was set in Gotham City, which is not a real, it's not a real world. These are not real characters. So we're dealing with comic book characters. So, based off a comic book, one would assume that in the confines of that story, these characters exist. So if these characters exist, you could assume that Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne were killed.
Okay. No, because the interpretation that I'm saying you're rolling with is whether any of these events actually happened. You're saying yes, you believe that the adoption thing happened. You're saying that all of these things actually happened. I'm saying that it's highly likely that none of this shit happened, and this is literally just one version of his original story, which is multiple choice. There could be 5 other versions. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but my problem is that I'm trying to figure this shit out. Like, I didn't want to try and figure this shit out.
Batman ain't been able to figure the joke out. How the fuck you? He the greatest detective in the world.
Because like you said, he might not have ever left Arkham Asylum, which means none of this shit
That's
happened.
what I'm saying, but you don't believe that. You don't accept that interpretation.
The only reason why I don't accept that is because if we're in the world of Gotham City and the Joker is a real character and Batman is a real character and we already know Batman's story, that is how I'm dissecting it. I'm dissecting it. Anything that is isolated with the Joker is up in the air. It's an if. The only thing that we know concrete in the story of Gotham and Bruce Wayne is that his parents were murdered. So in that telling in this story, that had to be real. And that had to be real. So that's the only thing in this story that I know is.
But
is
everything else is
happened.
You're interpreting what you saw in the movie one way, and I'm interpreting different. And I bet if we had 3 other people on the show on Urban Geek, we'd have 3 other fucking interpretations. Yeah.
And I'd sway them all on my way because this whole movie from beginning to the death of Martha and Thomas Wayne was
dude's crazy.
That's
dude's
the whole
crazy.
movie.
This movie's gonna get all the Oscars, or it may not get best movie. I don't think it's gonna get that, but it would probably get best actor. Let me ask you before I go on to my list. What was your last thing? I think you said you had 2 things and we went off. You got one thing left.
Yeah, I got one thing left. So Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker, in his final development as he became the Joker, I enjoyed how comfortable he was in comparison to the rest of the film. Like when he was on stage, he seemed comfortable as the Joker. And that's the most comfort that we've seen in his character throughout the whole film. Now, if you took this interpretation of the Joker and put him up against Batman, how does he stand to you? You think he'll hold his own?
That's a good point. I get your point, but I do have a counterpoint. I agree with your point, but I do want to point out this. You're comparing the first day of the Joker being the Joker against I'm assuming a fully experienced Batman.
I get what you're saying. He just got. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. I guess I'm just looking at it like.
No, not
for
yet.
Me,
but he couldn't stand up against Batman. Not yet. But
for me, my interpretation of him was honestly like, I don't think this guy was ever meant to be the Joker that goes up against Batman.
I think he could.
I mean, yeah, he could be. Absolutely, because it was his first day.
And on his first day, you got to remember, this guy, see, I mean, he was never as tough as Batman. Batman could always kick his ass. But this guy, the whole point, his power, he was able to tap in. And his power is in the people.
But it was never intentional.
Yes, intentional or not, he was able to tap in. He could get a crew together. You see what I'm saying?
This version of the Joker to me felt like he's not the guy who ever has a plan. He just does things.
No, I disagree with that.
And that's
I disagree with that. They never. This was his origin story. This was not his. Okay, now I am the Joker, and now I got a plan. This was his origin story. Like I said, he had one day of being a Joker, and they just showed his origin story, whether it was real or whether or not it was his origin story. But here's what he noticed: that he has the power to move people, large groups of people, into chaos. He has the power to create chaos. And no matter how skinny and scrawny this guy is, if he can incite an entire or half the city or a quarter of the city of millions of people to give in to their more anarchist and chaotic side, then that's really fucking powerful. And that's a lot more powerful than one person. That is definitely enough of a match for one person.
Yeah. I really
Shit, the goddamn Adolf Hitler was able to convince a whole country to try to wipe out a whole race of people. Being
yeah,
able
but
to
he was strategic. This
guy
guy
wasn't
wasn't
strategic
strategic.
yet, but being able to influence the masses is an incredible superpower. It is, and we have
Yeah,
seen that in history. It is an incredible superpower, and it is
I
definitely
kind of,
more than a match for one Batman.
when you talk about theories, it was my theory that the reason why it was called Joker and not the Joker is
It could have
because
been not
this
this Joker.
guy was the
Let's see.
person. This is the guy who creates the Joker.
I don't think so.
Like he's the influence for the Joker. Like the Joker that we know is a copycat. Then that would be
Cause
that would be
let's
a
walk
good
this.
that would be
Let's walk.
suggestive. So hold on, that would be suggestive of why this is a period piece and why Bruce Wayne is so young.
But okay, that's a good point. I did notice that there was a big age difference, but I kind of settled that in my mind. I'm okay with that. But because again, Joker's power has never been in his physical form. You know what I'm saying? He was never as tough as Batman. If his power is with influence, obviously you become a much better influencer, manipulator, the older you get. So let him be 20 years older than Batman. I'm okay with that. Now, here's my thing. Let's follow what you're saying to its logical conclusion. We didn't even touch on this point. I strongly believe that there will be a part 2. I definitely believe that no matter what they said leading up to this, they left the option open in the film for there to be a part 2 because there is a lot of untied or unfinished threads. There's a lot of threads that have not been wrapped up in this movie. Little
Which
thing.
one?
The biggest thing that jumps out to me is the rats. You know what I'm talking about? More specifically, the super rats.
What the fuck? That jumped out to you? I mean,
of course it did.
I guess I'm
analyzing all the movie. They keep continuously mentioning rats, not just normal rats, not just any rats, super rats. And then I'm watching this fucking movie, and I swear to you, I can't wait to see this movie again on DVD so I can pause it. I seen a fucking shadow of a rat roll by, and I guess I was looking at something else, and I just caught it out the corner of my eye. This motherfucker was as big as a dog. So here's the thing. I know you're saying rats, right? But number one, there is a character in DC, in Gotham, that is one of Batman's enemy that has called Rat Catcher. I had to look it up. Like, why the rats? Why the super rats? There's a character called the Rat Catcher. He's a thing. So why would they have
put that nigga next to Calendar Man? I don't care about no damn Rat Catcher.
Of course you don't care about the Rat Catcher. But my point is they keep mentioning these mutated fucking rats, but they never did anything with that. That is evidence to me that they left in little clues that would allow them to continue this story to a part 2, in spite of the fact that they said this is a standalone movie. Add to that the fact that just today, Joaquin Phoenix gets on an interview and says, I wouldn't mind coming back and doing the role and reprising the character. And get this, Joaquin, this guy is famous for not doing part 2s. He don't do part 2s. Okay. And he gets on immediately in an interview after opening weekend and says he would come back to reprise his role as Joker. So to get back to my original point, if this wasn't the Joker, I don't think that they would, after following this up, if they made more Jokers, if they followed this story up with a part 2 or a part 3 or anything like that, I think they're going to roll with Joaquin Phoenix. I don't think they would roll with someone else. And that was my whole point in that.
So my interpretation of the rats, when I caught it and I was thinking to myself, okay, So why are they telling us this?
1980s
This
New
must
York.
mean something. 1980s New York, they had a problem with the garbage, and that
New
was
York
something
has
that they talked
always had a
about.
rat problem.
And so I
But
just
not a
assumed that
fucking
the rats
super rat
was
problem.
okay. All right. I mean, I don't see you following up the Joker with the rat catcher.
I get that.
mean,
You're right.
that's not where I would go
that's
with
not
it.
where I would.
Out of all of his rogues
Out of all of
gallery,
his
I think that'd
enemies
be a horrible
possible,
idea.
maybe so. But all I'm saying, my only point is that they put thread like if it was just to remind us about the 1980s uh New York's rat problem, they didn't have to make the rats as big as dogs. They could have just said
True.
it's a rat problem.
True.
And not only that, but if we're following this thread along, somebody stupid as fuck would be a pretty nice little starter for a young Batman. Maybe I'm just getting my hopes up, but you know what I'm saying? Ratcatcher would be.
I think so.
But like I said, the clue is in there. All right. Let me
I just I just thought that was another reference to DC shit.
Maybe. I could be overlooking into it, but like I said, when you keep reminding us, they could have just said it one time. They went in these rats multiple times, and they just kept fucking bringing it up, and then they showed us the super rats, and there was no reason for them to do that, except for the fact that unless it was a one of multiple threads to start a part 2.
So something I want to ask you now. They just announced that this movie beat out Venom for having the biggest opening weekend. Yeah, but it beat out Venom for having the biggest opening weekend in October. And honestly, the thing that was going through my mind when I heard that is, I think now I'm going to be leery about any comic book movie that comes out in October, because that might seem like the dumping ground for the movie that they hype up.
Dumping ground, man. You just didn't like this movie, but
the movie
people like this movie.
Okay, so my rating of the film from a 1 to 10, I give it a 6.5. If I go with your if theory, I'll let it have a 7. But that's it. What did you think? What would be your rating?
I'm gonna give my rating at the end.
Okay. So
now let me go over these. Let me go over my little list of shit that I made, and it's eclectic. So I'm gonna just talk about the little things. These are just things that I noticed in the film. We already talked about that. In my opinion, one of the biggest flaws was One Bad Day just didn't. They were going for the one bad day thing, and it didn't seem like the day was bad enough for him to turn into the Joker. It might have been bad enough for someone else, but his whole life was already fucked up. It didn't seem like it was that different than the rest of his life. So I didn't really see how he made that jump. The next thing, I really wanted them to, this was the thing. I feel like they dropped the ball on you were meant to bring happiness or laughter into the world. So I feel like they should have written the mother as a nice person. I feel like, and this ties to the point that I just mentioned about his bad day not being bad enough. I would have liked to see that his mother was a freaking saint or something like that. Or even if she wasn't a saint, she was always nice to him. And when he asked why he has to laugh hysterically for no fucking reason, her explanation to him was, because you laugh because you were put here to bring laughter into the world. I feel like they missed that boat, they missed that opportunity, and they should have dug into that. And then somebody else kills his mom, or maybe the system lets his mom die. due to lack of resources, and that ties into his being angry at maybe her health benefits get cut off and she dies for no reason, whatever. The only bright light in his world dies, and he feels like it is unfair, and that's the start of his one bad day, and that's what sends him to Joker. I feel like they should have. I think they implied the tie-in between his laughter, his maniacal, his uncontrollable laugh, and you were meant to bring happiness into the world. I think they kind of tied in, but I think they should have really drove that point home and let his mother tell him that, and that's why you laugh like that.
Now, here's the interesting thing. This is my interpretation. He always said his mother told him that he was meant to bring happiness into the world and laughter. You never hear her say that in the film. Actually, the only thing she says is, "Baby, you're not funny." So
that's a good point.
I took it as that was a hallucination by him. He put his mom on the pedestal,
and she wasn't really on
felt like she held him up to higher standards than he actually.
And you know
what?
When you
did.
say that, now when you say that, so let's say let's go with what you just said. That his realizing that his mom ain't on that pedestal could contribute to his one bad day. That his mom actually wasn't looking out for him like it could definitely be.
And that's why he killed her.
Like, you know what? Fuck it. It's a good point. I like what you just said. All right. I'm going through my notes. I like the fact, and I've said this during this show over and over, I like the fact that the Joker doesn't have an origin story, and they gave us an origin story without giving us an origin story, and I think that's a good thing. We've already talked about a lot of this shit. It pulls heavily from The Killing Joke. The whole point, I would like to actually have another discussion, not on this show, but one day I want to have a discussion about the point of this movie. And you said that the point of it was, one of the points they were trying to make was the mental illness thing. And I think as a side note to that point, or in addition to that point, is, and I guess that's the point that Joker has always been trying to make, that one bad day could really, or one big set of events could really change the course of your entire life. And I would really like to make a deep dive in them. But let's see what else real quick. Zazie could have been cut completely out the movie with no change to the script. We talked about the rats. Oh, here's one. Here's a good one for you. Alfred, kind of heavy set. What's up with that? What you think about that?
And getting choked up by Joaquin Phoenix.
I ain't never seen a heavy set Alfred. I mean, are you okay with that?
Lazy writing. Yeah. I don't care that he was heavy set, man. I really don't care. I mean, he could have slendered up, just like you said, Joaquin Phoenix. This is his first day as the Joker. He could have developed or whatever. Alfred could have changed. I mean, you got to figure with as close as Alfred was to, and this is just me giving explanation when I shouldn't be the one giving explanation. As close as he was to Thomas Wayne and everybody, the loss of them and dealing with Bruce Wayne's depression over that and having to raise him by himself could have been depressing to him himself. He could have probably lost weight.
I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. I just noticed that I've never seen a chunky. Well, it wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? I've just never seen a non.
But fuck it, Thor pulled it off.
I mean, that was a part.
Let Alfred get his.
Right. I mean, it was okay. It didn't bother me that much. It was just he didn't. It took me a second to realize that he was Alfred and not just a security guard. Is what I'm saying, because he didn't fit how Alfred has always looked.
Speaking of that scene, when the Joker walks up on Bruce Wayne initially, where he's walking and you see him and he duck down and come back up with the note. That whole scene was creepy. I love
Yeah,
that.
it
Like
was
that
good.
was just seeing the Joker looming around in the background. It seemed like the It clown fucking with one of them kids. That I thought that was
Yeah,
just when you know these two's history and what they become. I thought that was definitely well written
I
and put
agree with you.
together.
I agree with you. All right, let's see. What do I got here? In his journal, he says the worst part about being insane is everybody wants you to act like you're not. Okay, so I made a note about this because in his journal, he says, one of his little thoughts was that the worst part about being insane is everybody wants you to act like you're not. And so that means, I mean, we all know the desire of Joker. He wants to see the world crazy, go crazy. But I mean, just to put it another way, in his words, or to reverse his words around, he wants to feel normal. He wants to feel like everybody else. But in his view, there's nothing wrong with him. He wants everybody to realize that his quote unquote insanity is not abnormal, and they're just as fucking insane too. They're just one bad day away from acting like he does. Like stuff. And he even said that. He like, I don't want to pretend like this, or actually maybe I'm, you know what? I watched the movie and the cartoon back to back, so I don't know which one he said this is, but in one of those he said, "I don't want to keep acting like this is not normal. These thoughts, these feelings, these actions are perfectly okay and acceptable." What was you gonna say?
That was. I know I come off like I really hated this movie. I didn't hate it, but for this movie was, when I first heard about it, I was like, why do I want to watch that? And then I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, that shit looked like it actually is going to be great. And it wasn't great. It was more along the lines of my initial thoughts. Like, okay, whatever. I thought out of one of the good scenes in this film was, in my mind, this was an interpretation that I did have. It was just his plan to kill himself the entire time. He makes references to it because he keeps pointing the gun at his head.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
And then he made the decision,
like, no,
to not kill
that.
himself. And yeah, and I think
that's what I'm saying.
That was
at that
him.
point where he realized that there's nothing wrong with it. Well, not realized, but that he decided that he's not the one with the problem. Everyone else has the problem, which is why he was so happy when he saw at the end, when he was getting taken away in a police car and he saw the whole world going nuts. He was like, now instead of me having to pretend like I'm like everybody else, everybody is acting like me. At that point, when he decided not to kill himself and to kill dude, he decided that he is not the problem, everyone else is.
I think it was even Robert De Niro's closing line for his show, and remember, that's life. And that was how he closed the show. That's life, because he was like, this is not my problem. This is just the problem in the world. And he just wanted to end it all. And I think that when Robert De Niro chose to confront him and mocked him, that was when he made the decision. Like, he was already the Joker. And like he wrote in his journal, because you made the journal references, where he was saying, like, I hope in my death is greater than my life, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but because that was always his plan, to kill himself. And then I think he was like, okay, you people really just believe it's me and it's not the world. And he's like, I'm gonna show you.
Exactly.
It's the world.
And that has always been the Joker's thing. to show
Yeah.
that he
Yeah.
is like he's not fucking nuts. That anybody could experience this same thing.
There was definitely genius in it. I don't know that the film was as great as a lot of people were saying it was, and I'm just now starting to hear more people come out about like this movie wasn't as great as y'all said it was. And because of that, I'm wondering, is this movie gonna be like it? Will a sequel do as good? Because like Venom overperformed, but the overall review of it wasn't that great. So they had to go in a
I
completely
don't think
different
you can
direction
compare
for
the
the
two.
sequel.
I think this was
And this
far and
one,
away heads, and I don't even think those two movies are comparable. This was heads and tails better than Venom.
Well, from what I'm hearing, this movie in totality is upwards to about 170 million, because it was probably 70 million or so to make this film, and then probably 100 million in marketing. So you got to think like, man, this movie got to turn a profit. I mean, don't get me wrong, because
that's apples
this
and
first
oranges.
weekend,
Now,
this first weekend is great, but I mean,
you compare apples and oranges. Don't forget, this is an R-rated movie, and although R-rated movies can do great, you know what I saw when we went to the show. What? Sitting right next to me, a 6-year-old little girl brought by her family, and in the front of the theater was some little kid. Was some little kid. I think that a lot of people simply saw a comic book movie. They heard that a comic book movie was coming out, and they came and saw it, and they took their kids. I think if there's a drop off, it's gonna be with the family, because the families are gonna tell the other families, you know what I'm saying? This ain't no PG-13 movie. This ain't no Batman versus Superman. So you might see a small drop off with families. I think that if I had went next weekend, I wouldn't have saw a little 6-year-old kid sit next to me watching this shit.
So
you can't compare R to a PG-13 movie.
Give me your early predictions on what you think this movie is going to gross.
As far as that, I actually can't. I feel like I don't pay enough attention to what movies gross to be able to say that number. I will give you my rating of the movie. I can give you my expectations of how it'll do in Oscar season, but I just don't pay enough attention to the numbers to be able to make an educated guess on it.
What's your rating?
Give it to you in the
end. Okay. Well, I don't know. I can't say that I'm the biggest analyst of what movies gross. I can't rattle off a bunch of grossing numbers, but I don't even know what this movie brought in this opening weekend. But I'm going to say, okay, this movie, if we're saying, let's just say 170 mil for good measure, let's just call it 200 mil to make this movie, advertising and everything. I think it'll make back its money.
Oh, definitely. I think it'll outdo Venom.
It'll probably hit about 250. I'm going to say 250 to 300 mil. And I don't know if that's a big enough profit margin to justify a sequel. I think because, you know, the buzz is riding the buzz right now. I don't know if the buzz will sustain, because the finished product, I think it was overhyped. Like, it was a good movie, but I mean,
you're
okay.
All that based on the fact that you don't think that you get a movie a 6 or a 7. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people think different. A lot of people think it was great, excellent. I mean, you know, interpretation. We go to the reviews that we agree with. Just like you saw a lot of negative reviews, I saw raving reviews.
I didn't see a lot of negative reviews. I just said I'm starting to see to see more negative reviews. And I'm like, man, we pretty much, I mean, we just out of the first weekend, but the negative reviews are
Well,
starting to roll
Avatar had
in. I
negative
don't think that
reviews.
they're going to fall off. Did
Hell
it
yeah.
though? Like,
Hell yeah. Right from the beginning, they said this story, great special effects, but this story has been told a million times. There's nothing new to the story. And that was true. That was absolutely true. We've seen this in Dances with Wolves. It's Dances with Wolves in space. But, I mean, there's always critics. But if you think the movie is a 7 or a 6.5 or 6.8 or whatever, then you're gonna naturally be drawn to people. You're gonna notice people who agree with you a little bit more.
Actually, no. I'm actually.
What's the right? Hold on. Let me look. Keep talking. Now hold on. I'm gonna look up. Let's see what the Rotten Tomato scores is right now.
Okay, I watched one movie review of someone who wasn't thrilled about it. Someone who probably felt the same as I do. All of the other videos that I was watching about it were people who enjoyed the movie and were giving it good praise. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I'm not bashing the movie. I'm wondering, is this the direction that DC
so here's
goes?
the thing. Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't know why I went to Rotten Tomatoes because everybody uses that. I personally use IMDb, but Rotten Tomatoes 69%. It's fresh. 69% for the tomato meter, which I guess that's critics, and 90% audience score. So the audience, 90% of all the people who rated it, 90% of the audience thinks that Joker was good. Now you can keep talking, but that says both of our points because only 70%, 69% of critics thought it was good. So they definitely see your point. Now you keep talking. I'm gonna look it up. I'm looking up on IMDb, which I prefer to use. So IMDb gives it a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. And just for reference, not that it's TV shows, like not that TV shows and movies are the same thing, but IMDb gives like Breaking Bad, which I think is the greatest TV show of all time, gives that a 9.8. So that shows you how good this movie is in IMDb.
Okay.
And that's after 163,000 ratings, which 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, that matches up pretty well. Perfectly, actually.
This could be contributed to me being cynical. Here's one of the reasons why I think that it's getting such a high rating in film industry is because of the increasing rise of the feminist movement or whatever in film today. This is a counterbalance to that.
What do you mean?
You have one of the more critically acclaimed white men who's playing a leading role, and I think that that's like kind of outcry against a woman playing a leading role. You get what I'm saying?
I understand. Like I'm not saying, but
I'm not trying to shoot Joaquin Phoenix in the foot. I like the movie.
With what you're saying, the connection
probably watch it. I will probably watch it one more time because the Batman is my favorite superhero of all time. I may buy this movie. Stop it. Probably when it's on sale.
Stop it.
I honestly, when I walked out of that theater, I said to myself, I don't ever need to see this movie again. And there was no post-credit scene, by the way.
Months, and we will come back to this. I predicted in a couple months after you watch it again, after it all sets in, your score is going to rise for this movie. That's what I predict.
I don't think so. I don't think that I'm going to get anything. I'll probably watch it again to see if I can take anything else from it, because one of the big things about me is initial reviews, I think, are overrated. I agree. Reviews, because I mean, we're giving an initial review. and I think we need it is probably fairer to see it more than once.
Cause especially a
But
movie like this, you're gonna pick
back
up
to
on stuff that you missed.
right, and now I'm gonna be looking for rats. Super rats.
rats.
Back to something else you mentioned as far as sequel likelihood. Here's where I find the problem with that is because they're already trying to do they're doing the Matt Reeves Batman. And this is my problem. This is my problem with Warner Brothers. This is my problem with how DC's properties are being handled. It's too many continuities rolling at once.
Problem, not a Joker problem.
If you no doubt. If you do the whole DC Black Label thing. I've heard people talk about the DC Black Label, which is what this falls under, where it's a standalone film and they're going to do more of these. And this is where they feel like they shine, much like their animated films, where you don't, and you don't have to necessarily tie it in with the continuity of anything else. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's cool if y'all just do that. But my two problems with that is, one, you have a sea of Black Label films, which means you could have 9 different Joker films that have nothing to do with each other. And at some point, what the fuck are we doing here, people? Like, why are we just watching you tell the same story?
It works for DC Animated. It works for DC Animated because
because they don't go to film.
They're loosely connected and they're all great. I mean, some of them are connected, and then next thing you know, they're no longer connected, even though it's the exact same character, drawn the same way, voiced the same way. Now they're in a totally different story. I done seen Wonder Woman. She's dating Superman. She's dating Aquaman. She's getting into beef. She's alive in this age. There's the lack of continuity sometimes, and then sometimes they got Damian running through multiple stories. So it's working with them. Look. To sum up that point that you just made, if they give me more movies like this, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I didn't like that whole this could have just all been in his head while he was in the Arkham Asylum, because I wanted that story. I want to see that story for Batman. I want to see. I would love to, and I think I want to try and write a screenplay.
You're gonna see the story. That would be dope. But you're gonna see the story.
I want to write a screenplay called Bruce.
You're gonna see the story.
I want to write a screenplay called Bruce and tell a story. I want to do some research on Batman lore, some research on Batman villains, and write a screenplay that will pick up right after Bruce Wayne's parents die in the film. And that made me mad. I'm like, you motherfuckers made us sit through another goddamn movie where y'all kill Bruce Wayne's fucking parents. Sons of bitches.
Like, you in every Batman movie, you're going
Spider-Man
to see that.
finally got away from Uncle Ben Dan. Thank you.
And if they're gonna show it to you in every movie, I like the way they did it. They put a new twist on it. That's just what they do in all of his movies. So they put a new twist on this time. I'm here for it. Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good telling of it. I think it fit. It justified. At the end result was cool. It was just like, oh my god, like I really wanted no Bruce Wayne in this movie.
Well, I really did. I'd like to see your fanfiction on your Joker story. I feel like we're gonna get to see something like that. I mean, your Batman story. I feel like we're gonna get to see something like that if and when they ever make a Moon Knight. So we're gonna
a Moon Knight. Oh, okay. I got you.
But all right, I think that it's time for me to give my rating. This is my initial viewing rating. I really think that it'll probably change after I view the movie a second time, especially after this conversation. Because I'm going to be taking your point of view into account and looking at it like that. I'm going to stick with my guns and looking at it like that. So I need to see it a couple of more times. But as of right now that it's set in after I watched it a couple of days.
Yeah, let's specify the initial review.
Initial review. I'm going to give it a 7.8.
Okay.
So that's real close to 8. I think it was really good. If I was just judging the acting, if I was only judging the acting, I'd give it a straight 9. The only reason why I'm not over 8, like I want to be at 8.5 or 8.6, but I got to watch it again. And I just got to see it again.
That's a fair number. I want to be at 8.5 myself. I want to be at 8.5. I'm at 6.5. And I'm not saying, hey, maybe, but again, the thing that's keeping me grounded at 6.5 is you have to, as an audience member, reach to get to that 8.5. Because you got to say, if it's
depends
this,
on how you interpret
then it's
it.
an 8.
And so, Mike, okay, let me ask you this. Would you recommend a person go see this movie? Like, was it worth watching? That's really the ultimate question. Would you tell us watch it or skip it? Wait for Netflix.
If if you are a comic book fan, go see it.
What about non-comic book fans?
You can wait. Really? You can Netflix.
I would think that based on your thoughts that you've expressed, that it would be opposite, that you would say that a person who doesn't care about the history of the Joker, who doesn't know,
you're right,
they should go see it, but a comic book fan can wait for Netflix.
Actually, you're right. You are absolutely right. Yes, because I think that it might be the comic book fans who are disappointed. And the non-comic book fans may enjoy it.
I think that totally depends on interpretation. I feel like they was able to somehow give us a prequel movie and still stay true to the canon lore of the Joker. They gave us a prequel movie and we still don't know what the fuck is the Joker's origin story.
That's frustrating to me. That's frustrating to me.
All right.
13 minutes.
All right. Hey, as an aside, like I said, me and Ebony, we went and saw the movie, came home, we watched The Killing Joke, and we're wrapping this up. We're done here, but this is just totally separate. Then, just as a quick comparison, I threw on 89 Batman. And guess what? I'll say what I feel about 89 Joker in a second, but I totally forgot. You know how you told me last week in our last episode that a black person was playing Commissioner Gordon?
Oh, in the new one?
I totally forgot that Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, right? Was played by a black man in 89 Joker. No one ever talks about that. I totally forgot about that. Two-Face was black.
People have brought it up.
Two-Face was black.
People have brought it up.
Two-Face was Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, he was Billy D. Williams. The one thing that I heard mentioned about it, which was funny, was they say when they get to talking about the Batman continuity, they say somehow from the 89 to Tommy Lee Jones, the acid fucked this side of his face up and turned this side Caucasian. That was the
oh my god, I just realized that just now when you said it. As soon as you said it.
Yeah, that was the only thing I've heard mentioned about Billy D. Williams playing Harvey Dent.
You know what the thing about 89 Batman, they probably that's what I was explaining to Ebony, is like when this movie was created, I mean there were a few superhero movies, but there was no MCU. You know, they weren't like they weren't dominating the box office. We had our Superman and it was hit. You know, we had our 80s Superman and it was definitely a hit. And then I think at 89, 90s, they had like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But comic book movies were not what they are now. And to be honest,
Right.
they probably didn't plan that much further ahead than this. They were probably just happy to be able to get fucking Jack Nicholson to play the Joker, and what's his name, who was a star at that time, Keaton, to play Batman. That probably took everything. So they didn't plan it out. And then of course there was no even universe connected universe. So it was no franchise. It just fuck it. Billy D. Williams is still kind of hot. Let's put him in. So let's get the black guy from the only black guy in the universe in Star Wars. So, all right. I guess the very, very last point, and I want to ask you, quick question. I don't know, because I know there's lots of different Jokers. Does Joker wear makeup or is his skin pasty white? And how do you feel about them doing makeup in this movie, in the Joker movie? Depends on his origin story, right?
I honestly, I think I prefer the makeup to the bleach skin. I think I prefer the makeup to the bleach skin.
Always comes with the acid, right?
Yeah, or the toxic whatever it was, because that's like the radioactive substance which gave so and so their superpowers. Nobody in the history of ever has had that reaction to acid.
Well, you don't know what chemical I would rather in particular it was. And actually, you're wrong. You're wrong. There is one person who had this response to chemicals. He was a baseball player of African descent. What's dude's name? Played for the Cubs.
Michael Jackson.
Played for the Cubs, motherfucker.
I mean, fuck. You said the black person who had the type of reaction and they skin went bleed. Michael Jackson, motherfucker. Shit.
Plays for the Cubs.
He ain't played for the Cubs, but how many black people skin went white?
I'm finna show you right
Michael
now.
Jackson.
Hold on. And we can close the show out on this. I'm finna show you right now.
Oh damn.
Hold on. Sammy Sosa. So it is possible.
I guess it is possible. And there you have it, folks. There you have it. That's life. Damn.
All right, see us next show. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about that. I know there has definitely been a lot of news. We definitely got a lot of
8
stuff
minutes
to talk about. Yep. We could talk about this crazy ass. I don't care what nobody say. I think y'all just don't have no taste in shows. Because there's Raising Dion. I watched like one episode and so far it's terrible. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. We need to talk about.
You don't even know what I'm counting down though.
I don't know. But we need to talk about Power. And we got El Camino coming out soon. So real quick, what's the 8 minutes thing?
El Camino.
It comes out when? In 8 minutes?
In 8 minutes.
You a dumb motherfucker.
It's 7 minutes. It's supposed to drop on the 8th, right?
I don't think so.
Is it the 8th or is it the 10th?
11th or something like that.
Oh shit. Well, maybe not 8 minutes.
Yeah, it drops on Friday. But yeah, we got El Camino. We got all the crazy shit going on with Power. I feel like they setting dude up for the spinoff, The Sun. We got a lot of shit to talk about, so y'all should definitely tune in next time.
You know what we never mentioned? Watchmen is coming out on HBO.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Batgirl, Batwoman, episode 1 has been released. I haven't watched it yet.
All right, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna get to all that. So put it like this was a dope ass conversation. If y'all want to hear more shit like this is how we do. You definitely need to subscribe wherever we release this. I think Facebook, YouTube. You need to go ahead and subscribe because we definitely gonna be coming with more just like this. All these kind of deep dives. And we definitely it's just gonna get better and better. So definitely subscribe. Once again, I'm Feral Fly.
And I am Nizza.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
See y'all.